Whether I bought myself my new sports car, which I can no longer drive, it was ridiculous. But to me, I had to have it because I was like, this means I've made it.
We all have an idealized self, a self that we think we need to be for us to be loved, for us to be accepted, sometimes for us to feel safe.
Without realising, now we're talking, actually, been quite selfish.
How did you believe you would feel if you got all of that stuff?
I thought I'd be happy. I've always thought the next thing will make me happy. I've spent so much time looking at what's wrong with him, but I've not really looked at what's wrong with me.
The more drive there is to be that idealized self, the more dysfunction there really is underneath. Welcome to episode 2 of In Therapy with me, Alex Howard. And firstly, thank you so much for the feedback on episode 1. We were a bit nervous, and it's nice to see that there's been a positive response so far. And this is an evolving project and series, and it's not, we certainly, Oliver and I kind of watched back these kind of first episodes, and we already see so many things we want to evolve and change about the kind of production. And at the same time, there's something about the honesty, I think, and the realness of people sharing their stories that seems to be striking a chord with you guys. It certainly has been powerful for us, in a sense, to see people's stories in this way. So I'm excited for you guys to continue on this journey with us. And in this second episode, this is the second part of Lauren's first session, where we start to get into this idea of the idealized self. We all have this image in our mind of the person that we believe that we need to be loved, to feel safe, to be happy, to be enough. This can sometimes be an enormous source of suffering and difficulty in our lives. So that's what Lauren and I are exploring in this episode. Please do share your thoughts and comments in the comment section below the video. But here's Lauren. What I'm often thinking about is, well, firstly, how do you get someone stable? And then how do you get progress happening? You've kind of done those two things. You've stabilized, or you're kind of all over the place at stabilized, energy starting to come back. It's now, how do we protect the progress that's happening? Yes. But in that protection, it's also, what are the deeper lessons that played a role in getting sick in the first place and are in danger of hijacking the recovery process? Yeah. Or you get to the point of full recovery and a few years pass and then life kind of goes down a certain direction. And what are the underlying patterns that could re-hijack to then recreate the same situation? Whether
I bought myself my new sports car, which I can no longer drive, it was ridiculous. But to me, I had to have it because I was like, this means I've made it. It doesn't mean I've made it because I've got the car, I can't afford it, and I can't drive anymore because I'm not well enough. And what was the point? Because and then as you get there and then you want something else. I got the 4-bedroom house this year. All I ever wanted was to, or last year, I had this big image of what I thought it was to be successful. And now I'm sitting here and none of those things mean anything to me. Or they do, but not in the same way. Yeah. I definitely think financial and career are a big kind of risk area for me because I built so much of my self-esteem on my career. Right. And having financial independence and being able to kind of show the world that I'm not the fuck up that everybody thought I was when I was younger, so I've kind of, it's almost my shield. So it doesn't matter, you can't call me that because look what I have. Yeah. I wouldn't have this if I wasn't together.
We all have an idealized self, like a self that we think we need to be for us to be loved, for us to be accepted, sometimes for us to feel safe. And for some people, that idealized self is kind of held a bit lightly, and it's like, well, it'd be kind of nice, but I'll never be it. For others, it's like, I have to be that person. And like there's an enormous amount of emotional, physical stress that goes into trying to become that idealized self. Particularly when we have childhoods where needs are not met, where we're abandoned and we're moved around and we don't have that sense of safety and holding. It's like, well, if I become this, then I'll be okay. Yeah. And it's almost the more dysfunction, for want of a better word, there is in childhood, the more fuel there is in adulthood behind trying to become that person. And it's the fuel behind a lot of very successful people in a, as much as on the surface, people's lives can look wonderful, often the reason why a lot of those people end up with alcohol problems, drug problems, relationship issues, endless kind of divorces, or whatever it may, or health issues, whatever it may be, is because they're just living completely beyond their physical and emotional capacity. Because it's not just a narcissistic, oh, I need to be that. It's like, I'm not safe in the world if I don't become that person. We're talking about survival kind of level, kind of stress, like I need to be that person to feel safe. Yeah. I'm wondering what that person is like, that if you were to kind of describe who that person, and I think it's changed a bit over time, but let's start off with the historical version of like pre-dating, getting ill. Who was the person that you thought you needed to be?
My personality before I got ME was definitely very bubbly, outgoing, very adventurous. I was definitely a people pleaser. I definitely wanted everybody to like me, but I was generally quite energetic, very smiley. I think I'm still quite smiley, I hope. I talked a million miles an hour, which I probably still do. And I was just really enjoyed life and living to the max. I was always someone who pushed myself very hard and was very energetic and did a lot. So I was working, crazy hours with a job, traveling all the time, but I'd still manage to go to the gym 5 days a week. And I would still go out and maybe do the occasional all-nighter on the weekend. And I would still, have quite a good social life and stuff like that. So I was kind of burning the candle at both ends. But, I was getting tired, but I was still able to keep going. I was able to be adventurous and jump on an aeroplane and, decide to go traveling. I never had to think for a second about whether I was going to manage jet lag or anything like that. Like, I didn't really think of energy as a currency at the point. So when you take the lack of fuel, the overworking, the high stress levels, the traveling, the jet lag, the lack of sleep, all these things meant that my body was already, I think, probably hanging on by a thread. I just wasn't willing to acknowledge it. And then one day I got a virus, and it didn't kill me overnight. I got the virus, but it was a recurrent virus that I just wasn't able to kind of get rid of. And over the space of 6 months, that just every kind of a few weeks, I was just getting worse and worse and worse. And 6 months later, when they first kind of thought I had, this chronic fatigue syndrome. I had a very clear picture in mind of being a very successful global person, because I wanted the global, I wanted the travel, I wanted to be in business class, and and I wanted the house, but I wanted to own the house, I didn't buy it with my partner, kind of. I wanted to do it,
So to be independent.
To be independent. So yeah,
to
very
be your own person.
Yeah, and I think I've actually, without realizing, now we're talking, actually been quite selfish in my relationship, because I knew where I wanted to be, and I was driving us so fast towards that. I wanted to have a baby really badly. So, but I wanted all these things. I wanted to be skinny and fit, and be athlete level. But I also wanted to be this career woman, and I wanted to have it all, and I wanted to also have a baby and be a mum, and I was and I had all these plans. I mean, I'm the queen of having plans, and so I'd have the house, and then I'm going to be able to work, we're going to get the nanny, and then we're going to do this, and I'll be able to It's exhausting thinking about it now.
It's exhausting hearing about it.
Yeah. And but I also felt like I resented the world. I was angry as well, because I was I'm a woman, I can't have it all, but I want it all. But, why should I be the one to do it all? So this kind of inner turmoil all the time.
How did you believe you would feel if you got all of that stuff?
I thought I'd be happy. I've always thought the next thing will make me happy.
Do you know people that have managed to achieve that idealized image?
Yeah, most of my friends. I wouldn't say that we're competitive with each other, but there's definitely, we're all kind of following a path to stuff.
And how happy, I don't mean how happy do they present themselves to be, but when it really comes down to it, how happy do you think they are?
you know what? I don't know, because when I got sick, a lot of them, and I hope they don't see this, but a lot of them weren't really there, because I have a different type of conversation now than I had before. And it's not about, oh, I had a glass of champagne and went to this nice restaurant and look at the car I have and I da-da-da. And not that it's their fault at all, because I was probably the worst of all of them, for sure. The most materialistic out of everyone. But yeah, I guess I was just looking at that face value the whole time. I've been a bad friend because I don't actually know. I don't know.
See, the way that I have a very unusual insight into the world, because when you do my job, you hear how people really feel. So what people see in society is the version of people's selves that they try to present to the world, like the idealized self that they want to see. And in my observation, the more perfect that idealized self, and the more energy someone drives themselves to become that, the more dysfunctional I know that person is. Because life is about compromises. If one prioritizes, and this is a sort of PC unacceptable statement to make in 2020, but it's still factually true. If one prioritizes career and one says that I want to be the absolute best in my field, one is compromising family. If one prioritizes fitness and going to the gym and having the perfect body, one is compromising, let's say, time with friends. If someone is prioritizing being a really good mother or father or parent, one is compromising one's social life and one's hobbies and everything in life. And it's unpopular because people want to believe that we can all have it all. Yeah. But the truth is, life is about compromise. And so if you choose to have the global career, then yeah, your kids are going to get raised by nannies. If you prioritize having the perfect body and getting up to go to the gym at 5 o'clock every morning, then you're not going to have breakfast with your spouse or your kids or whatever. And how I always think about it is you need to make the compromises consciously. And what most of us try to do is we believe we can have it all because that's what the media and society kind of sells us. And we still make the compromises, but we make the wrong compromises and make them unconsciously. Yeah. So what that looks like is you go after the career and you go after the success and the kind of the car and the house and that kind of stuff, but you end up emotionally completely unhappy and miserable. And then you have to use alcohol and partying and jet lag as a way of masking how you actually feel. And we do that long enough, and in the end, the pack of cards kind of comes crumbling down. And the insight that you get from doing my role is I normally talk to people when the pack of cards are starting to disintegrate a little bit. And when you've worked with enough, top business people, people in the media, people in the arts, people that have got top careers, and you hear the same story enough times, you sort of come to realize that the more drive there is to be that idealized self, the more dysfunction there really is underneath. Because the people that are really happy are people that are prioritizing their self-care and their happiness as being the most important thing. That doesn't mean they can't be enormously successful in other areas of their life. They're just not willing to burn their own quality of life to get that. And yes, sometimes you might prioritize career and go, I've got this project and I've got to deliver it, and I'm not going to get to the gym this week, and I'm not going to get to meditate every day. And that's okay for a temporary period of time. But if your whole life is driven by, unless I become this person, I won't be loved, I won't be happy, I won't like myself even, then you're compromising your health, your relationships, your emotional well-being all of the time.
It's funny you say that, because I mean, that's me. Like it resonates so much, but I also found that I project onto others as well, because I have such high expectations of myself, like trying to get to be that idealistic person, that I'm like that with my partners, like multiple the nice boyfriends I've had, like especially my partnership now. I'm like, well, but you're able-bodied. Why aren't you going to the gym? Why aren't you bettering yourself? You've got to be bettering yourself. You always got to be striving to be a better version of yourself. And I push and push and push, because I idealize my relationship as well, what I want in my partner. And then all that happens is I try to change the person I'm with so much, and usually by the time I've changed them, I don't necessarily find I like them that much anymore. So it's a really, and I know I've got to stop doing that. I met my match in this partnership now, with my partner now, really, because he just didn't want to change.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really should. What is it about me that I need this person to meet my expectations?
Yeah, the way that we choose relationships is normally to fill the dysfunctions inside of ourselves. And when we're in this kind of ego, idealized self pattern, we see who we're in relationship with as part of that. They're a reflection on us. So again, without wanting to sound like I psychoanalyze the whole world, it's like you tell a lot about someone by the relationships that they choose, and if there are patterns in that relationship, that's, we are the only common denominator in all the relationships that we're in. Mm-hmm. And it totally makes sense that if you're chasing after that idealized self that you believe that you need to be, that you're going to choose relationship that is a reflection of that and meets that. The resolution of that is the same resolution of what this all really comes back to is, what is your relationship like with yourself? Mm-hmm. That's the core of all of this. Because if your relationship with yourself is that I'm only lovable if I have all of this stuff, then if you're in a relationship with somebody who is not meeting that idealized self, you're not going to want to be close to them, but then you're going to be with that person that's the idealized self, and it's likely to be a dysfunctional relationship because all the compromises they're making inside of themselves to become that person. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many questions of my relationship at the moment, and who was in the wrong and everything like that.
Yeah.
And
it's very easy to get caught in, I understand why, it's easy to get caught in the story and the kind of, you did this, you did that. But the fact is, when you chose, I make no comment on the current status of the relationship in the future, but what's very clear is, when you chose that relationship, you were meeting the world from a place that wasn't very healthy. And that relationship was a reflection of that, by the sounds of it. Now, whether that relationship can evolve and change, it's kind of outside of my scope of comment. But I think that all of this comes down to you changing your relationship to yourself, and you're changing your relationship to the world. Because when you do that, the type of person you are attracted to will fundamentally change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does it feel? We're talking a lot of words at the moment. How does it feel talking about this?
Kind of wish I'd had this conversation several months ago, before I got my relation kind of got to where it is. Because I think I've spent so much time looking at what's wrong with him and what's wrong, but I've not really looked at what's wrong with me. So I'm not saying, and I put a lot of the blame on him and not on me as well, because, he didn't change. But actually, maybe my expectations were wrong. Maybe I wasn't necessarily in the best mindset when I did enter this partnership. I was definitely at the peak of my like trying to look for my idealistic self. I was probably the closest I got to that idealistic self at that point. But I got sick almost as soon as I met him, and
so just as you got close to your idealized self, you got sick.
I got sick.
Funny that.
Yeah, it's funny. I finally got my body.
Price you paid to get there.
This whole drive I've had to being perfect has actually just almost held me back from a lot of the other steps in my life.
So the idealized self that believes you need to have and achieve all of this stuff, it's a disaster. People see the car, the house, the lifestyle, and they don't see the pain.
That was a big problem in that relationship, was my infertility and the issues that we had. And a lot of that's all linked to my lifestyle.
Here's the heart of the matter. You can't have it all. It's not about giving up on the things that matter to you. It's choosing the things that matter most and actually being successful at those things. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please do share your thoughts in the comment section underneath the video. I'm really curious to hear what people think of these episodes and how it potentially moves you or impacts you. Just remember, these are real people sharing their stories, so please be respectful of the people that I'm working with. I appreciate you being respectful towards me, but that's less important. And if you want to help spread the word of this series, this is something that really passionate about and I really want more people to experience and see. There's a few things you can do to help. So commenting is great. You can also like the video. If you like the video, it tells the YouTube algorithm that this is content to show to more people. If you hit the subscribe button to my YouTube channel, that's going to get you, your kind of these video episodes will show up in your feed. But again, it tells YouTube this is content that's worth sharing. That helps more than you might realize. And if you want to get a notification each time we release an episode, you click the notification bell and YouTube will give you a notification as well. These things really help in spreading the word. But also, I really hope you're going to follow these journeys as they continue. So we'll have another episode of Everyday Alex tomorrow, but then next week on Tuesday, we've got the next installment with Lauren. And then on Thursday next week, we're going to meet Sally and we're going to start following her journey as well. Thanks for watching.